So why has electronic voting become a bone of contention in the last few weeks? With all that in mind, here are my two key suggestions when it comes to this matter. Considering the challenges we've had over the years with physical voting, whether it's ballot snatching, whether it's mass thumbprinting, or any of those sort of challenges, I completely understand why there is a lot of excitement about the introduction of an electronic voting system. Now, that said, we have to move with caution and understand what we are getting ourselves into. Let me start by saying that there are two key requirements for a voting system. The first is that it must have some level of anonymity. And what that means is nobody should be able to tell who voted for who. Otherwise, people can threaten people if they do not vote in a certain way, or they can make promises for specific outcomes. I mean, that still happens now, doesn't it? But the second thing is trust. The system needs to be obvious to everyone. No matter how technically savvy you are or you are not, everyone needs to understand what is happening at every time. And that is why in physical voting, you have representatives or agents of all parties in the room at the same time. Here are now the issues with electronic voting. The first is auditing the software and the hardware. How can you prove that the verified software is the one that has been loaded onto that system on the day of the election? Now remember that these softwares can be reprogrammed in a matter of minutes. So at any point when the voting machine is out of your view, the software can be tampered with. I'm sure you're probably thinking that's a bit of extreme and would cost a lot of money, right? But don't forget that there are millions and billions at stake in an election. In fact, in some cases, there are several countries and foreigners who are interested in the outcome of the election. So there's enough motivation for anyone to go in to any length in order to alter the software. The second will be transmission of votes. Now, there are three ways you can transmit the results once you've completed the actual voting itself. Firstly, you can transport the machine with the results physically to an agreed location. That will most likely be, in Nigeria's case, INEC's office for the final count, and so on. But again, that brings the same issues we've had with physical ballots. Someone can snatch that actual machine and escape with it, especially if they know that they're on the losing end, right? And secondly, we can copy the results on a USB stick and transport it to that location. But again, I don't think I need to explain to you why that is not so much of a good idea, because the USB itself can easily be altered, or it can be switched, or it can even be stolen before it gets even to its final destination. Thirdly is what we've been arguing about, which is transmission of the results electronically. And this means we can upload the results over the internet to a dedicated server online, and then that is then transmitted. But once that is uploaded, there will be a program on the other end which picks up all the numbers, adds them together, and produces the final results. Sounds perfect, right? But as perfect as this sounds, you have to ensure that the results will be transmitted over a secure network. But you must be aware that this is a third-party server as well. And we must also keep an eye on which technology company will be given the contract to handle the protocols around the software and the hardware.
Therefore, before INEC will implement, it has to go to NCC. And we felt that that is wrong.
With all that in mind, here are my two key suggestions when it comes to this matter. Firstly, I would prefer an open source software over a proprietary software, and these are my reasons. If you're using an open source software, it will make it first of all transparent, but also easier to spot if the code has been tampered with, because anybody can go into that software and all the parties involved can actually audit it. Proprietary software, on the other hand, is not publicly available, and we just have to trust that the company given the contract to create the software has not been compromised. My second recommendation will be the use of blockchain technology. We all know that cryptography has evolved over the years and provides a fundamental basis for the internet security. Therefore, building the voting software on blockchain technology, say like Polkadot's Substrate, Cardano, or even Ethereum's smart contracts, are a much safer option. It's not perfect, but certainly introduces a higher level of security. Now, that said, there is an issue with regards anonymity here, because people would most likely be voting using tokens, and as such will need to set up a wallet address. And these addresses will have to be tied to their voter identities, and this means it is possible to prove who voted for who. Now, that would certainly break that requirement regarding anonymity. That said, it is a very difficult thing to do, but it is certainly not impossible. So before we start hitting the dance floor about electronic voting, it's important for us to know what we're getting ourselves into. Think about it.